Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring Aristotle's Nichomachean Ethics,
Nichomachean Ethics.
which is all about figuring out how to live a good life.
You know what's so fascinating about this book? It's actually,
It's a big one.
it's only half of the picture. It's
I
like the prequel to Aristotle's Politics.
Mm.
Both of these books are all about this idea of how humans should act.
Okay,
But Nichomachean Ethics is focusing on us as individuals.
right.
Politics zooms out to like how we function as a society.
So it's like the zoomed-in version.
Yeah, and right from the get-go, Aristotle saw this link between personal ethics
Right.
and like how we build a just world.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
So he's not just talking about being a good person in a vacuum.
Right.
He's connecting our individual choices to the kind of society we create.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But let's start with the basics.
Sure.
What was Aristotle's big idea?
Mhm.
I know that it was that the ultimate goal of human action is happiness.
You guy.
But he wasn't talking about just like,
Not just like the fleeting.
right, like that temporary, I just won the lottery feeling.
Right. He was after something much deeper.
Yeah.
This state of being called eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia.
Yeah.
Oh.
Think of it like flourishing or living well. It's not about fleeting emotions.
Right.
It's about living in a way that brings a deep and lasting sense of fulfillment.
So not just a temporary high, but a way of life that leads to genuine and lasting happiness.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder then,
Yeah.
if happiness isn't about wealth or fame, what does Aristotle say it is about?
Well, he actually dismisses a lot of the things we typically associate with happiness.
Okay.
Take wealth, for example.
Got it.
Aristotle noticed that a lot of rich people are actually pretty miserable.
Interesting.
They're constantly worried about losing their money,
Right.
or they get caught up in trying to make even more.
Yeah, always wanting more.
Right. And it never really satisfies them.
Right. It's like that saying, money can't buy happiness.
Exactly.
But it's one thing to say it.
Right.
It's another to actually see it playing out in people's lives.
Absolutely.
So wealth is out.
Mm-hmm.
What about just seeking pleasure?
Okay.
Couldn't that lead to a happy life?
Well, Aristotle wasn't buying it.
Okay.
He believed that if you're just chasing pleasure,
Yeah.
you're always going to want more.
Always on that hedonic treadmill.
Exactly. You end up becoming a slave to your desires,
Mm.
constantly searching for the next hit.
The next hit of gratification.
Yeah, it's a pretty shallow existence.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really get you any closer to true happiness.
So it's not about just feeling good all the time.
Right.
It's about something more substantial.
Much more.
But if we're not chasing wealth or pleasure,
Right.
how do we achieve this eudaimonia thing?
Good question.
What's the secret sauce?
For Aristotle, it all came down to virtue.
Virtue.
He saw Nichomachean Ethics as this guidebook for developing good character.
Like
You
a
know,
training manual.
It's like a training manual for becoming a better person.
That's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
A training manual.
Yeah.
So there are specific exercises we can do to build our virtue.
Well, one of his most famous concepts is this idea of virtue as a mean.
Okay. Virtue as a mean.
It's this idea that each virtue is a balance point
Okay.
between two extremes.
Okay, give me an example of this.
Well, sure.
How does this mean idea work in real life?
Think about courage, for instance.
Okay.
Aristotle saw courage as this perfect middle ground
Okay.
between cowardice and recklessness.
Oh, okay.
A coward runs away from every danger,
Right.
while a reckless person charges in without thinking.
Yeah.
True courage is kind of being brave when it matters,
Yeah.
knowing when to stand your ground and when to back off.
So it's not about being fearless.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
about finding that sweet spot where you're brave, but not foolish.
Exactly.
It's almost like you're calibrating your response to each situation.
You got it.
That's really interesting.
And generosity works the same way.
How?
It's the mean between being stingy, where you hoard everything,
Right.
and being extravagant, where you just threw money around without any thought.
Just completely reckless with your giving.
Yeah, the generous person gives freely, but also wisely. Finding that balance between giving too much and too little.
So they're giving thoughtfully.
Exactly.
This mean concept is starting to make a lot of sense to me.
Good.
It's like you're trying to find that perfect pitch,
Yeah.
the right note to play in each situation.
Right.
And it's not about being perfect,
Not at all.
but about striving for this balance in our actions and emotion.
That's it.
I like that.
Yeah.
But it's not just about thinking about it either.
Yep.
Aristotle was adamant that you develop virtue through action and
Yes.
habit.
It's all about practice.
You become courageous by doing courageous things.
Yes.
By acting generously.
You got it.
It's like practicing an instrument. The more you play, the better you get.
Exactly.
Right? So you can't just read about virtue.
Nope.
You have to actually live it.
It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process of learning by doing.
Absolutely.
It's like training your character in a way. I imagine there are times, though,
Oh, yeah.
when knowing what's virtuous and actually doing it are two different things.
Absolutely.
We all struggle with that, right?
I go for sure.
It's like that inner battle
Totally.
between what we know we should do
Yeah.
and what we actually want to do.
Right.
It's tough.
It is. And that's where
Yeah.
Aristotle's deep dive into the human soul gets really interesting.
Okay.
He recognized that we're not purely rational beings.
Right.
We have these desires and emotions that can sometimes pull us in the wrong direction,
Yeah.
even when we know better.
What did he say about how this plays out in our decision-making?
Well, he breaks down the soul
Okay.
into two main parts, the rational and the irrational.
Okay, two parts.
Think of it like a chariot with two powerful horses.
Okay, I like that analogy.
The rational part is the charioteer trying to guide the horses,
Right.
which represent our desires and emotions.
So sometimes those horses are going to pull us in different directions,
Totally.
and it's the charioteer's job to keep them under control.
Exactly.
But where does virtue fit into all of this?
Well, virtue is what allows the charioteer to gain control. It's about training those horses, so to speak,
Right.
so that they work together and pull the chariot in the right direction.
So we're shaping our own character,
Mm-hmm.
training ourselves to respond to our desires in a virtuous way.
Yeah.
But that's probably not always easy.
Oh, no.
I mean, sometimes those horses are going to have a mind of their own.
Definitely.
Right.
Totally. And Aristotle was very aware of this.
Mhm.
He even had a term for when we know what the right thing to do is, but we just can't seem to make ourselves do it.
Really?
He called it incontinence.
Incontinence.
And it's something we all struggle with.
Okay, incontinence. That's a new one for me.
That's a good one.
Can you give me an example of what that looks like in real life?
Sure. Imagine you're trying to stick to a healthy diet.
Okay.
You know, you should eat more vegetables and cut back on the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But then you see a plate of freshly baked cookies,
Oh, no.
and suddenly all that knowledge goes
Yeah.
out the window.
Right out the window.
Your desire for those cookies overrides your rational judgment,
Completely.
and you end up eating way more than you planned.
Ugh, I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah.
It's like your willpower just crumbles in the face of temptation.
For sure.
Aristotle really understood the human condition.
He did. He was really insightful.
Yeah, he was.
But he didn't just leave us hanging with this struggle.
Right.
He had ideas about how we could overcome it.
Okay, what were they?
Well, he believed that education plays a huge role in strengthening our rational faculties
Oh, interesting.
by learning about ethics, studying philosophy,
Right.
reflecting on our own actions.
Yeah.
We can actually train ourselves to become more virtuous.
So we're building up those mental muscles
Yes, exactly.
that help us resist temptation.
You got it.
So it's not just about knowing what's right.
Nope.
It's about developing the inner strength to actually do what's right.
Exactly.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But where does pleasure fit into all of this?
That's a good question.
We've talked about how chasing after pleasure isn't the path to true happiness.
Right.
But Aristotle didn't completely reject pleasure,
Not at all.
did he?
No. He actually believed that pleasure is a natural part of living a virtuous life. But here's the key.
Okay.
He thought that true pleasure comes from doing the right thing.
Interesting.
It's that deep sense of satisfaction you get from acting in accordance with your values.
So it's not about denying yourself pleasure,
Right.
but about finding pleasure in virtuous activities.
Exactly. It's about aligning your desires with what's truly good
Right.
and worthwhile.
The very different way to think about pleasure, I think,
It is.
than what we usually hear. It's not about instant gratification.
Yay.
It's about finding joy in the process of striving for something greater than ourselves.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big idea.
It is. And it brings us back to that concept of eudaimonia.
Right.
That state of flourishing or living well.
Living well.
For Aristotle,
Yeah.
pleasure is a byproduct of living virtuously.
Interesting.
It's the natural outcome of aligning your actions with your values and striving for excellence.
Okay, so we're starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Right.
Happiness isn't about chasing fleeting pleasures
Yep.
or material wealth. It's about cultivating virtue, training ourselves to act in accordance with reason,
Yeah.
and finding joy in the pursuit of what's truly good.
That's it.
But wasn't there more to Aristotle's ideas than just individual happiness?
There was a lot more.
Yeah, he also had a lot to say about our social lives.
He did.
So he wasn't advocating for this solitary pursuit of virtue.
Not at all.
He saw our connections with other people as being fundamental to our happiness.
Very fundamental.
What did he have to say about friendship?
Well,
It seems like a pretty simple concept.
yeah.
But I'm guessing Aristotle had a deeper take on it.
Oh, he did. He actually identified different types of friendships.
Yeah.
There are friendships based on utility,
Okay,
where people are connected because they benefit from each other in some practical way.
that makes sense.
And then there are friendships based on pleasure,
Okay,
where people are drawn together because they enjoy spending time together
yeah.
and having fun.
Okay, those make sense.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of friendships we probably all have in our lives.
Right.
But I'm guessing Aristotle had something more in mind.
He did.
When he talked about friendship being essential for a good life,
Absolutely.
what was it?
He saw those types of friendships as important,
Yeah.
but there's another type of friendship that he considered like the highest form,
Oh, okay.
a friendship based on goodness. This is a friendship between people who admire each other's character
Okay.
and who inspire each other to become better versions of themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
So these aren't just people you hang out with.
Right.
Or who do you favors.
Right.
These are friends who challenge you to grow,
Exactly.
who encourage you to live up to your highest potential.
You got it. And this type of friendship,
Yeah.
based on shared virtue and mutual admiration, is incredibly powerful.
It sounds like it.
It helps us stay on track with our own pursuit of eudaimonia
Mm-hmm.
because we're surrounded by people who are also striving for excellence.
It's like having a support system for your journey of becoming a better person.
It is.
You're not just doing it alone.
Right.
You
Yeah.
have people who are walking alongside you,
Yeah.
encouraging you,
hmm
and holding you accountable.
It's a beautiful idea.
That is a beautiful idea.
It is, and it connects directly to his ideas about justice.
Okay.
Aristotle believed that a just society is one that fosters these kinds of friendships.
So it's not just about individual friendships.
Right.
He's talking about creating a social environment where these virtuous relationships can thrive.
Precisely. He believed that justice isn't just about following rules or laws.
Right.
It's about creating a society where everyone has the opportunity to develop their character, to build meaningful relationships,
Yeah.
and to contribute to the common good.
So it's about creating a world where everyone has the chance to flourish,
Exactly.
to achieve that eudaimonia we've been talking about.
Yeah, that's it.
It's really amazing how he connects our individual pursuit of a good life
Right.
to the kind of society we create.
Yeah.
But I imagine this idea of creating a just society is pretty complex.
It is.
What are some of his thoughts on how to actually achieve that?
Well, Aristotle was a big believer in the importance of good laws and institutions.
Okay, so good laws and institutions.
Yeah, he thought that laws should be designed to promote virtue
Right.
and to discourage vice.
So to encourage good behavior?
Yes, and he also believed in the importance of education,
Okay.
arguing that citizens need to be educated about ethics and politics in order to participate effectively in a just society.
So it's not just about having the right laws.
No, it's not enough.
It's about cultivating a citizenry that understands and values those laws.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of virtue
Hmm.
where people are committed to the common good.
That's a beautiful idea,
It is a beautiful idea.
but I imagine it's hard to achieve.
It is. He was also realistic about the challenges of achieving this kind of just society.
Right.
He recognized that there will always be conflicting interests,
Yeah.
power struggles, and temptations to act selfishly.
That's the human condition.
It is.
Right.
But he believed that by striving for virtue, by building strong friendships,
Yeah.
and by participating actively in our communities, we can create a world that is more compassionate
Yeah.
and ultimately more conducive to human flourishing.
What a great note to end on. This has been such an insightful exploration of Aristotle's ideas.
I agree.
We've covered a lot of ground, from individual happiness
Yeah,
to the importance of friendship
right.
and the complexities of creating a just society.
It's amazing how relevant his ideas are even today,
It really is.
thousands of years after he wrote them.
His insights into human nature,
Yeah.
the challenges we face,
Mm-hmm.
and the possibilities for living a good life are timeless.
They truly are.
It's true. And as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I think it's worth taking a moment to consider how we can apply these ideas to our own lives.
Right.
How can we cultivate virtue in our own actions,
Mm.
build stronger friendships based on shared values,
Yeah.
and contribute to a more just and compassionate world?
Big questions.
Big questions.
The good ones.
Let's take a short break and come back for the second part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some more of Aristotle's fascinating insights. See you soon. Welcome back, everyone. We're continuing our deep dive into Aristotle's Nichomachean Ethics,
Yeah,
a text that's surprisingly relevant to our lives today.
I think so.
We've talked about happiness, virtue,
Right.
friendship, and even justice.
Big topics.
But I'm curious, what else did Aristotle have to say about those tricky situations where our reason and our desires seem to be at odds?
Well, Aristotle really dives deep into the human experience in Nichomachean Ethics.
Yeah,
And he doesn't shy away from those internal struggles
Right.
we all face.
we all have them.
Remember how we talked about the soul
Yeah.
having both rational and irrational part?
Yeah, that analogy of the charioteer trying to control those powerful horses, our desires, was really helpful.
It is a good one.
It makes it clear why it's not always easy to make virtuous choices.
Right, because sometimes those horses are really strong.
Right, exactly.
Well, Aristotle takes it a step further,
Okay.
and he distinguishes between different kinds of desire
Okay.
within that irrational part. He talks about desires that are amenable to reason
Okay.
and those that are much harder to control.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Give me an example of a desire that's amenable to reason.
Okay, so think about hunger.
All right.
It's a basic biological need,
Right.
a powerful desire.
You gotta eat.
We gotta eat, but reason can help us manage that desire.
Okay.
We can choose healthy foods,
Right.
eat at appropriate times,
Yeah.
and avoid overindulging.
Portion control.
Exactly. Reason helps us refine and guide that desire so it doesn't run wild.
So it's not about suppressing our desires completely,
No,
but about finding a way to channel them in a healthy and balanced way.
that's it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about those desires that are harder to tame?
Ooh, those are the ones that can really trip us up.
Oh, yeah.
Aristotle talks about certain bodily pleasures
Okay.
and strong emotions like rage.
Yeah. Rage.
These can be so intense that they sometimes hijack our reason, leading us to act impulsively.
Oh, I see.
Think about those moments when you get so angry that you say or do something you later regret.
Oh, we've all been there.
We have.
It's like reason gets thrown out the window, and we're just reacting on pure emotion.
Completely and utterly.
It sounds like Aristotle's saying we're not always in complete control of ourselves.
He was definitely aware of that human vulnerability.
That's humbling.
It is, but this is where his emphasis on moral education and self-discipline comes in.
Okay, so moral education
Yeah.
and self-discipline.
He believed that we can train ourselves to become more resilient to those overwhelming desires. It's like building up our mental and emotional fitness
Yeah.
so we can handle those challenging situations.
So we're strengthening our charioteer,
Yes,
our reason.
our reason so we can hold the reins even when those horses are rearing up.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how does this connect back to Aristotle's overall idea of a good life?
Well, remember, for Aristotle, the good life, eudaimonia, is achieved through virtuous activity. And this idea of self-mastery, this ability to guide our desires in a way that aligns with virtue, is a key part of that.
I see.
It's not about becoming emotionless robots.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between our desires and our reason, allowing both to play a role in our lives without one dominating the other.
So we're like conductors of our own internal orchestra.
I like that a lot.
Each instrument, our desires, our emotions, our reason has its role to play.
Right.
But it's up to us to create a harmonious symphony
A beautiful image.
that ties in beautifully with his concept of the mean,
Yes, it does.
that idea of finding the balance point between extremes.
It all comes together.
It's not about denying our desires,
Right?
but about finding that sweet spot where they're expressed in a way that's aligned with virtue.
You got it.
This is really making me think about how I approach my own desires and emotions.
That's what it's all about.
It's not about being perfect.
No.
It's about striving for that balance, that harmony in all aspects of my life.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, did Aristotle have any practical tips for how we can actually do this?
He did.
How do we cultivate that self-mastery?
Well, one of his big recommendations
Okay.
was to pay attention to the company we keep. He believed that our friendships have a huge influence on our character.
Right. We talked earlier about how important those friendships based on shared virtue are.
They're crucial.
They're like our own personal cheerleading squad for becoming better people.
Exactly, surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us,
Right.
who challenge us to grow,
Yeah.
and who hold us accountable
Mm-hmm.
can make a world of difference in our own journey of self-cultivation.
It's huge.
Their good habits rub off on us.
Mm.
And we're more likely to make virtuous choices when we're in good company.
So it's like having a personal trainer for your character.
Exactly. You push each other to become stronger,
Right.
more resilient, and
Yeah.
more aligned with your values.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks. And just like with physical fitness, building that moral strength takes time and practice. Aristotle believed that virtue is something we cultivate through repeated action,
Right.
through making those tough choices over and over again until they become second nature.
So it's not a one-time fix.
No.
It's an ongoing process of growth and refinement.
It is a journey.
Yeah.
It's about becoming more aware of our desires,
Mm-hmm.
learning to manage them wisely,
Right.
and surrounding ourselves with people who support our journey.
It sounds like a really beautiful process.
It is, and here's what's really inspiring.
What's that?
Aristotle believed that everyone has the potential for this kind of growth.
Mm.
He didn't think virtue was reserved for some elite few.
I see.
He saw it as a possibility for all of us,
Wow.
regardless of our background or circumstances.
That's really empowering.
It is.
It means we all have the capacity to become better, to strive for that good life,
Yeah.
to cultivate that inner harmony that leads to true happiness.
To
Wow. We've covered so much in this deep dive into Aristotle's Nichomachean Ethics.
We have.
It's incredible how his ideas written over 2,000 years ago are still so relevant today.
It really is amazing, isn't it?
It is. They really are. And I think that speaks to the enduring power of his insights into human nature.
Absolutely.
We're still grappling with the same fundamental questions about how to live a good life,
Right.
how to make virtuous choices, and how to create a more just and compassionate world.
The big question.
The big questions, right? And it's like he's given us this timeless roadmap for navigating the complexities of life.
It has.
He's not giving us all the answers,
No.
but he's given us the tools and the framework to figure things out for ourselves.
That's what's so great about him.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that's what makes his work so valuable.
I agree.
It's an invitation to keep questioning,
Mm-hmm.
keep learning,
Yeah.
and keep striving for that good life, both for ourselves and for the world around us.
I love
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired to put some of Aristotle's wisdom into action.
Me too.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been an incredible journey.
It has been my pleasure.
Welcome back, everyone. We're wrapping up our deep dive today into Aristotle's Nichomachean Ethics.
A classic.
And, we've talked about happiness and virtue and friendship and even justice.
The big stuff.
Yeah. But I just keep coming back to those situations in life
Yeah.
where our reason and our desires seem to be at odds.
Oh, totally.
Did Aristotle have anything else to say about that?
Well, he did. He really dove deep into the human experience, and he didn't shy away from those struggles we all face.
Right, like we were saying before with the whole chariot analogy.
Exactly.
Sometimes those horses just want to run wild.
Those horses are desires.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're powerful.
So powerful.
And so Aristotle actually went a step further.
Okay.
He distinguished between different kinds of desires within that irrational part.
So not all desires are created equal.
Not at all. Some desires are actually amenable to reason.
Amenable to reason.
So think about like hunger,
Okay, a basic need.
right? We got to eat.
We got to eat.
But reason can help us manage that desire.
Oh.
We can choose healthy foods right. We can eat at appropriate times.
So we can make good choices.
Right. And we can avoid overindulging.
Portion control.
Exactly. Reason helps us to kind of refine and guide that desire so it doesn't completely take over.
So it's not about suppressing the desire completely.
Yeah, way.
It's about channeling it in a healthy and balanced way.
That's a great way to put it.
But what about those desires that are a little bit harder to tame?
Yeah. Those are the tricky ones.
Yeah.
Aristotle talks about certain bodily pleasures and also strong emotions like rage.
Oh, rage is a big one.
Yeah, it can just kind of take over.
It can completely hijack us.
Totally, and lead us to act in ways that we regret later.
We've all been there.
Oh, for sure. I know I have.
Done or said something in the heat of the moment.
Yes, exactly. And you're just like, why did I do that?
And it sounds like Aristotle is saying that we're not always in complete control of ourselves.
He was very aware of that human vulnerability.
That's kind of humbling.
It is humbling, but it's also freeing in a way because it means we don't have to be perfect.
It takes the pressure off.
Exactly. And this is where his emphasis on moral education and self-discipline comes in.
Okay, so we can get better at this.
We can We can actually train ourselves to become more resilient
Hmm.
to those overwhelming
Well,
desires.
that's a process.
It's a process. It's like building up mental and emotional
So
fitness.
we can handle those tough situations.
Right. We're strengthening that charioteer
For a reason.
so that we can hold the reins even when those horses are like bucking and rearing up.
I love that image so much.
It's a good one.
But how does all of this connect back to Aristotle's idea of the good life?
Well, remember for Aristotle, eudaimonia is achieved through virtuous activity.
Right, doing the right things.
And this idea of self-mastery,
Huh.
this ability to guide our desires in a way that aligns with virtue is a key part of that.
Okay, I see.
And it's not about becoming like these emotionless robots.
But right, we're not trying to suppress everything.
No, it's about finding that balance
Right, yeah.
between our desires and our reason, allowing both to play a role without one dominating the other.
I love that it's like we're the conductors of our own internal orchestra.
Beautiful.
Each instrument, our desires, our emotions, our reason, has its role to play.
Yes.
But it's up to us to create this harmonious symphony.
That's a great way to think about it, and it ties in beautifully with that idea of the mean.
Right, finding that middle ground.
Basically, that balance point.
It's not about denying our desires, but about finding that sweet spot where they're expressed in a way that's aligned with virtue.
You got it.
This is making me think about my own life and how I'm approaching my own desires and emotions.
That's the goal.
Yeah, it's not about being perfect.
It's not about perfection.
It's about striving for that balance, that harmony.
Absolutely.
But did Aristotle have any practical advice for how we can cultivate this self-mastery?
Well, one of his big recommendations was to be mindful of the company we keep.
Oh, our friends.
Our friend, exactly. He believed that our friendships have a huge influence on our character.
It makes sense.
And, we were talking before about those friendships based on shared virtue.
Right. They're so important.
They're crucial.
They're like our cheerleading squad for becoming better people.
I love that surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us,
Right.
who challenge us to grow, and who hold us accountable can make all the difference.
It's like having a personal trainer for your character.
Totally. You push each other to become stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with your values.
And just like with physical fitness building, that moral strength takes time and practice.
It does.
It's a journey.
It is, and Aristotle really believed that virtue is something we cultivate through repeated action.
So it's like building a habit.
It is making those tough choices over and over again until they become second nature.
It's not a one-time fix. It's this ongoing process of growth and refinement.
A lifelong pursuit.
And I think what's so inspiring is that Aristotle believed that everyone has the potential for this kind of growth.
He did.
It's not just for like the elite few or something.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He saw it as a possibility for everyone, regardless of background or circumstances.
That's so empowering.
It really is.
It means that we all have the capacity to become better, to strive for that good life, to cultivate that inner harmony that leads to true happiness.
That's what it's all about.
Wow, this has been an incredible journey exploring Aristotle's Nichomachean Ethics.
It's been a pleasure.
It's amazing how these ideas written thousands of years ago are still so relevant to our lives today.
They really are timeless.
And I think it speaks to just how fundamental these questions are.
Big questions.
Yeah, the big questions about how to live a good life,
Absolutely.
how to make virtuous choices, how to be a good person.
And how to create a better world.
Yeah, Aristotle didn't give us all the answers.
No.
But he gave us a framework for thinking about these things.
He gave us the tools.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes his work so valuable.
I agree. It's an invitation to keep questioning, to keep learning, and to keep striving for that good life, both for ourselves and for the world around us.
I love that. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired to put some of Aristotle's wisdom into practice.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, for this deep dive into Aristotle's Nichomachean Ethics.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the ideas that have shaped our world.